Hi boys and girls, my name is Miss Chelsea Conley, and today we'll be reading the book Chrysanthemum, written by Kevin Hanks. And before we get started reading it, we're going to do a quick picture walk through the book to see if we can see what the story's about before we start reading it. And I also want you to think about what the word chrysanthemum might mean. Okay, so maybe it's a made-up word, maybe it's the flower, or maybe it's this little girl right here. So I don't really know yet until we get started. So real quick picture walk to get started. Okay, so just be thinking about what's going to happen. Okay. Okay. So even though we just did a picture walk, we still don't know what the story's about. So we're going to go ahead and get started. You know, the illustrations do give a lot of ideas as to what it may be about, but not really entirely sure until we actually start reading it. So, the day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. "She's perfect," said her mother. "Absolutely," said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. "Her name must be everything she is," said her father. "Her name must be absolutely perfect," said her mother. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Okay, so now we know that the title of the story is named after the name of the little girl. And let's see, and then the first two pages here, is there any kind of established setting so far? Remember, setting is the place and the time of the story. And so far it doesn't seem like there's a setting that has been established. Let's read on to find out. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew, and when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner, and she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect, and then she started school. On the first day of school, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran all the way. "Hooray," said Chrysanthemum, "school!" There she is there, running to school. Okay, now we're going to take a quick pause and just think to yourself what you think her first day of school is going to be like. Okay? You think she'll have a good day? Do you think maybe maybe everyone in school will love her name? Maybe they won't. Just think about that real quick, and we'll read on to find out. But when Mrs. Chudd took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. That doesn't sound too good. "It's so long," said Joe. "It barely fits on your name tag," said Rita. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "You're named after a flower." Doesn't sound too nice. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. Okay, so right here we have a little bit of a change in Chrysanthemum's mood. In the beginning of this story, we find that she loved her name. She appreciated it, remember? Now that everyone at school is making fun of it, she doesn't love it as much anymore. So she's had a bit of a character change so far. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chudd that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. That's exactly half as many letters as are on the alphabet, Victoria explained. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long. It barely fits on my name tag. And I'm named after a flower. So now she's taking everything that everyone said and she's letting it affect her too much. It's changing who she is. Oh, pish, said her mother. Your name is beautiful, and precious, and priceless, and fascinating, and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Okay, so now let's see what this day at school is going to be like. I want you to think about what's going to happen. Is she going to stand up to the girls, to Joe, Rita, and Victoria? Is her teacher, Mrs. Chudd, going to say something about it? Start thinking of those things. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle. Mrs. Twinkle right there. Let's see. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Mrs. Twinkle. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. Then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Jo was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger. And Chrysanthemum, she was chosen as a daisy. So she's down there. She doesn't look too happy because now not only is she named after a flower, but now she's going to be playing a flower in a play. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, Jo, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Look at them. What's so humorous? Asked Mrs. Twinkle. Chrysanthemum was the answer. Her name is so long, said Jo, and it barely fits on her name tag, said Rita. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. She is named after a flower. So there they go again, saying the same mean things that they were in the beginning of the story. Let's see what's going to happen now. My name is long, said Mrs. Twinkle. It is, said Jo. My name would barely fit on my name tag, said Mrs. Twinkle. It would, said Rita. And Mrs. Twinkle, said Mrs. Twinkle, I'm named after a flower too. You are, said Victoria. Yes, my name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect. Okay, so now that we know, everyone really seems to like Mrs. Twinkle, and now Miss Twinkle tells the girls that whenever she has her baby, if it's a girl, she's going to name it Chrysanthemum. So do we think maybe the girls will change their mind, or do you think they'll make fun of Mrs. Twinkle now? Let's find out. Chrysanthemum could barely believe her ears. She blushed, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. How happy she is there. Jo, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. Call me Marigold, said Jo. I'm Carnation, said Rita, pointing. My name is Lily of the Valley, said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. Alright. So, in the beginning of the story, Chrysanthemum, she loved her name. Then once it was made fun of, she didn't like it. Then towards the end, she found out that their favorite teacher was also named after a flower. Which means, it seems like throughout the book she's had a lot of different changes in her character. As had the three girls, Jo, Rita, and Victoria. In the beginning, they made fun of her name. They thought it was funny. Then once they found out that their favorite teacher was also named after a flower, they wanted to be called flowers too. Alright, so I want you to think about it. If those girls didn't meet Miss Twinkle, they didn't have the school musical, then they probably wouldn't have. They probably would have kept making fun of her name. Okay, so now you see how different characters change throughout the book. See different things like that. That's it.